Here is a question that history books never quite answer satisfactorily. How did people with no cities, no writing, no bureaucracy, and no formal armies repeatedly conquer the most advanced civilizations on Earth? How did Genghis Khan ride out of the grasslands and take down China and Baghdad, two of the greatest centers of human civilization, almost back to back? The answer will completely change the way you think about what civilization actually means. We have a story we tell about civilization versus barbarians. Civilized people have schools, books, and governments. They are curious and innovative and rational. Barbarians, the people of the steppes, the grasslands, are emotional, violent, primitive, and static. That is the standard picture. The problem is that this story cannot explain one of the most consistent patterns in human history. The so-called barbarians kept winning. Over and over again, across thousands of years, steppe people swept into agricultural empires and took them over. The Mongols, the Huns, the Yamna people of prehistoric Europe. So either we are wrong about who was smarter and more innovative, or we are wrong about what innovation actually means. Human settlements began as religious sites, places where people came together to celebrate gods and nature. Over time, these settlements grew, developed farming, and became cities. When multiple cities developed in the same region, they competed with each other in what we can call open cooperative competition. Open meaning curious, cooperative meaning in contact, competitive meaning driven to be better. In this kind of environment, innovation explodes. Ancient China's most brilliant period, Confucius, Laozi, the great philosophers, came during the spring and autumn period, when hundreds of small states were competing. But then something always happened. One city won. It conquered the others. The empire was born. At first, the empire was powerful and innovative, but over time it calcified. It became insular, secretive, bureaucratic. The open cooperative competition that had driven innovation was replaced by a monopoly of power. And life inside the empire? For ordinary people, it was close to slavery. You could be conscripted into war at any time. You could fall into debt and lose everything. Now contrast that with the people of the steppes. The grasslands could not be farmed, so the people who lived there had to base their entire economy on animals, cattle, sheep, horses. This forced three innovations that changed everything. First, lactose tolerance. Most humans cannot naturally digest milk. The steppe peoples developed the ability to drink it because their survival depended on it. Second, horse riding. On the vast flat grasslands, mobility was survival. The animals needed to move constantly to find fresh grass. The only answer was to master the horse. Third, a completely different social structure. The steppe people developed a patron-client system, essentially a tribal network where a strong leader protected his followers in exchange for loyalty. No slavery in the bureaucratic sense. This created a culture that was not static at all. It was aggressive, adaptive, and constantly in motion. The sky god of the steppes demanded conquest and expansion. Compare that to the mother goddess religions of settled agricultural communities, which emphasized harmony and acceptance of your place in the natural order. Now we get to something uncomfortable. What happened when the steppe people moved west into Europe around 2500 years before the Common Era? DNA evidence has confirmed what linguists had suspected for a long time. The Indo-European language family, English, German, French, Spanish, Persian, Hindi, all descended from a single mother tongue. The people who spread that language were the Yamna, a steppe people from the region north of the Black Sea. When they moved into Europe, they did not come as peaceful farmers. They came as young men, warriors. The archaeological evidence shows a massive genetic replacement of European farming populations, particularly the men. The steppe people were larger, stronger, and more aggressive. They killed the local men and married the local women. Over several generations, they transformed the genetic and cultural landscape of an entire continent. This is where the foundations of Western civilization actually come from. Not just from the settled farmers of the Fertile Crescent, but from these steppe warriors who brought with them patriarchy, private property, the concept of inheritance, and a warrior culture. When these same people pushed into Iran and India, they mixed with local religions to create Zoroastrianism in Persia and Hinduism in India. You can see the shared origin clearly in the languages. The word for father in Latin is pater, in Greek patus, in Persian pada, in Hindi pita, all the same root, all from the same grassland people. So here is the real legacy of the steppes. Every time an empire becomes too comfortable, too bureaucratic, too convinced of its own superiority, the people who have been living rough on the edges come in and reset the whole system. The steppe warriors were not primitive, they were not backward. They were simply living under conditions that required constant innovation and adaptation. And you can see echoes of this pattern everywhere today. The most innovative companies rarely come from the most established institutions. The most disruptive ideas rarely come from the most comfortable places. The grasslands are still producing fighters, they just wear different